Hi, thank you. Thank you for choosing to come and listen to me this afternoon. It's great to see so many of you here. The sound with the slides, by the way, is purely for my benefit and amusement. It wasn't until I started writing my autobiography, Running Blind, that I've really come to appreciate my achievements as well as some of the obstacles I've had to overcome. I've always believed that since I lost my sight when I was 20, I've always believed that my cup is half full, that nothing was going to get in my way, and I love the challenge, and I've always wanted to exceed at any challenge. I think being blind has also taught me to be respectful. My guide dog Zorro and my wife are obviously very important to me, and I know that if I upset Zorro, then we could end up goodness knows where. And if I upset my wife Sarah, who's an interior designer, she could well carry out her threat to rearrange the furniture. Through my life, there have been people who've told me what I won't be able to do just because I'm blind. And I'd like to thank those people for being a source of inspiration to me. Because whenever anyone tells me what I won't be able to do, it makes me all the more determined to prove them wrong. Try telling the guy sitting next to me when I was driving a racing car at 80k an hour around Brands Hatch that would be impossible. Mind you, he was worried. Not as worried as I was. I thought he was going to have a heart attack. Or try telling my guide runners when I set 22 world records that was impossible. Or telling my tandem partners when I cycled thousands of kilometres through Europe, Great Britain, North America and New Zealand that would be impossible. I played cricket, football, cross-country ski, downhill ski, jet skiing, and I'm a published author, so I can honestly tell you that nothing is impossible. You'd be forgiven for thinking that the MBE after my name stands for Mad Blind Englishman. Now, I said that I really love skiing, in particular down cross-country skiing. I used to go skiing once a year in Norway, and it was great. My guides telling me about the scenery and painting pictures with words, if you like. And we used to do a series of races. There was a 10-kilometre race, a 20-kilometre race, and perhaps the more interesting race, which was the biathlon. Now, the biathlon is you ski and then you shoot a gun at targets, which is quite an interesting thing for a blind guy to do. But I should tell you that the Norwegian army set up the tripods and put sonic aiming beams on them. So we skied up, laid down, put the headphones on, and moved the gun around and tried to find the highest pitch, and then pulled the trigger. And when you miss, you had to do penalty laps. I invariably do a lot of penalty laps. Now, I should tell you that my dad was also blind. I inherited from him the condition retinitis pigmentosa, or RP for short. In lay words, it means your sight gradually deteriorates. When I was about 8 years old, I thought there was nothing wrong with my sight really. I could get around during the day. I could see a car number plate at 25 metres, and I really didn't think I had a problem. I couldn't see in the dark, however, but I used to lie in bed at night with the lights off and try and see my hand in front of my face or my bedside table. I used to eat lots of carrots as I understood they helped you see in the dark as well. Unfortunately, nothing worked for me, and my sight continued to disintegrate. about that time, my sister told me that she'd heard the doctors say that I'd be blind by the time I was 50, and well, I thought, that's a lifetime away. But like I say, it carried on disintegrating until it had all gone by the time I was 20. I did struggle at school with my sight going. I refused to acknowledge the fact that I had a disability, which made it tricky for the teachers. And whenever there was sport on the programme, I used to run in the opposite direction, ironically. I remember the school teacher actually took me aside at the beginning of the summer term, and he told me that I wasn't going to be allowed to do the summer athletics, as I guess for some reason he thought I'd be a liability throwing the shot, let alone throwing the javelin. As my sight deteriorated, I did take a step in the right direction when I went to partially sighted school. Funnily enough, there was still, I still had the least amount of sight compared to anyone. But that's when I started learning. I hadn't learned Braille at all, and I didn't start learning Braille until I was 15, which was quite a disadvantage really, because I think the earlier you start learning Braille, the more proficient you can become at it. But I got up to a reasonable speed, and people asked me how long did it take to learn Braille, and for me it was relatively quick, 3 months. But it took years before I was able to read at any speed. I know it took me about 6 months to be able to get to the point where I could even remember what was at the beginning of the line. And despite my poor sight, I felt that I'd be able to run. I ran in my school's championships and won the 1500 on a grass track. And perhaps the clue there was that the white on the green background with the grass was a really good distinction for me. Whereas when I came to represent the school, we ran on an all-weather track and the colour contrast wasn't that good. And I was 100 metres into the race and lost sight of the lines, and next thing I know, I'm almost entering the water jump. And I thought, that's it, that's the end of my running career. Then, when I was, I should probably say that, it's in, looking back, I don't really know how I coped with that time. Imagine what it's like going through puberty and, coping with a sight loss thing. I didn't cope really well with it at all. Like I say, I refused to acknowledge the fact that my sight was going. I wouldn't wear glasses, I wouldn't use the white cane. I was afraid it would make me stand out from my peers. I guess running around the playground and bumping into my peers was probably a bit of a giveaway there. And I really was a danger to myself as well. I remember when I was 12, I was walking home from school, and I was trying to keep up with a guy on the other side of the road. I was competitively with him. Unfortunately, I didn't see the lamppost. Another time, I think I was about 15, when I was running to get an ice cream from my girlfriend from the ice cream van. Unfortunately, again, I didn't see the lamppost, but I did see the dentist the next day. Dad was a great role model for me. He was never blind to my two sisters who were fully sighted, or me. He was just our dad. And the thing I loved about him was his positive outlook on life and refusal to let his blindness be a disability. I remember I was about 16 when he got his first guide dog, beautiful big black Labrador called Valiant. And I saw how Valiant really transformed his life. Dad was able to get around so much more confidently. And he was able to help Mum with the shopping on Saturday mornings. Now, obviously that's incredibly thirsty work, so he was able to stop at the pub on the way home. Now, a guide dog isn't infallible. They're taught to, find a door, find a post box or whatever, but you have to be vicinity. Shortly after they trained together, Dad was on his way home from the shops, and he told Valiant to find the door and look in for the pub. So he went through the door and he thought, oh, it's a bit quiet in here, but thought no more of it. And walked up to the counter and he said, I'll have a pint of bitter, please. And the girl said, the pub's next door. He said, the bank. So then age 16 was a big year for me when I went to college for the blind. And for the first time there were kids who had less sight than I did. And I really started to appreciate what I had and to stop feeling sorry for myself. I was able to guide them around, and I could certainly get around a lot easier than most people. I did get into some bad habits though, such as smoking and drinking, and quickly found I was rubbish at both. However, I did persist with the latter. I became quite a fan of the real ales back in England. Some of those beers are so strong that the bar prices are improbable. And then I, as my confidence grew, I started getting into sport again and playing football and cricket. Now, by then, we doctored the ball by putting a ball bearings inside it so we could hear it rattle. We played with the football when we were playing cricket as well. And then I was introduced to a game called Goalball. That's me as a Corky kid. So Goalball is a game that's designed for the blind. Everyone has to wear eye shades. You play on a badminton-sized court. There's three aside, and you're at each end of the arena. And you dive and try and stop the ball. You listen to where it's going and try and get in the way. Now, that's all very well, but the ball weighs 2.5 kilos, and it's bowled underarm. It's got bells in it so you can hear it. And let me tell you, that hurts when it hits you. Someone rather unkindly called it knockdown blind man. And I was picked playing Goalball to compete for Great Britain for the first time at the Paralympics in 1980. Now, those Paralympics should have been held in Moscow, but the Russians refused to acknowledge the fact that they had any citizens with a physical disability. So the Dutch stepped into the breach, and so my first Paralympics were in Arnhem in Holland. Now the important thing for me at those games was meeting a blind Canadian who ran and won in the 1500 metres, guided by a sighted athlete. And that got me thinking, well, if he can do it, why shouldn't I be able to? 2 years later was another huge year for me. I've been commuting to London every day. I'd left college and I've got a job in the city. And the walk to the station was taking me 40 minutes. By that time I had to use the white cane. I had no sight, so I didn't have a choice. And the walk took 40 minutes, and I often arrived at work exhausted mentally and battered and bruised where I bumped into lampposts trying to hurry to catch the train. And then I got a call from the Guide Dog Association telling me that they had a guide dog for me. His name was Henry, beautiful yellow Labrador. And I remember training with him and our first walk together. And I gave him the forward command, and we were off. And stopped at the first curve, and I'd been told to do a turn right there, so I did the right turn, and we were off again. And we walked down a busy high street, swerving in and out of pedestrians. I felt like I was a slalom skier. It was so exhilarating. And later that year, I should say actually that there's nothing like travelling on the train with a cute dog, but suddenly the girls start talking to you. later that year, I met my first regular guide runner. He picked me up from home, and we drove somewhere we could do a 3-kilometre loop away from any traffic or obstacles. And as we started running, I just loved the sense of freedom. I felt like I was fast, I felt like I was a world beater. And then he told me that we're going to do a second lap. And I thought that would be impossible. I thought I was going to collapse and die. My life flashed before my eyes and I wasn't in it. But I thought, well, you know, let's just see how it goes, put one foot in front of the other. And do you know what? I got round that second lap and not feeling nearly as bad as I thought I would. And, you know, if you like, that became a kind of a lesson for my life. You know, if I wanted to succeed at anything, then I had to do that second lap, to just try that bit harder and to take one step at a time. And for the first time in my life, I felt I could afford to dream that anything would be possible if I was only, you know, determined enough to go out and get it. 6 months later, after a lot of hard training through that first winter, I stepped on the track in the spring and improved the Canadian's world record by 2 seconds. And over the years, I improved that 1,500 metre time, the world record, to 4 minutes and 5 seconds. And that time stood for 28 years. And then I also set the world record for 800 metres, which is 1 minute 59 seconds, and that time still stands today. Now, 13 months after starting running, I was selected to compete for Great Britain again, and those championships were in Bulgaria, the European Championships, and I ran in the 800, the 1,500 and 5,000 metres and managed to win 3 golds. The next year, 1984, I was again selected to compete for Great Britain in the Paralympic Games, and my first Paralympic Games running. And I remember the opening ceremony. It was just such a fantastic buzz as we processed into the stadium in our teams. The stadium was packed. The games were opened by President Reagan, and I thought, you know, if this is what being an international is all about, then I want more of this. However, I was brought down to earth somewhat a couple of days later when I was warming up for my first race. I won't say that the crowds were small, but the guy on the public address system was reading out the names of the spectators for the benefit of the athletes. Now, perhaps you're wondering how it is I run. Well, I use this piece of rope, this is what we graduated to, and we just hold the end loosely and then move our arms together. The more together we are, the more synchronised we are, the more relaxed, and then the faster you can run. And like I say, the first rope we used was a piece of catapult elastic, which was great because we didn't know really how to run or how to get synchronised. But the guide runner didn't have the control. The response was too delayed. We progressed from there to stringing and onto the rope. So that was how we managed to run so quickly together. And of course I should say that there's a hell of a lot of confidence that you have to have in your guide runner, and likewise my guide runner has to know that anything he says to me in way of instruction, curves or getting around anything, then I have to do it knowing that he's not going to run me into anything. Over the years I've run with over 100 different guides, and it's worked really well with all of them. But I should say that it hasn't worked perfectly with every one of the people that I've run with. I was out for a first run with a guy once, and in the space of 100 metres, I'd bounced off a fence, fallen off a curb and hit a lamppost. So I didn't run with him again. Now, I should tell you that there's not a great deal of political correctness in the Paralympic Village. We refer to the main three disability categories as wheelies, amps and blindies. After a hard day's training in Sydney, a few of us went to Manly, I think it was Manly Beach, for a swim. There was myself, a couple of other blindies, partially sighted, and a guy with only one arm who was called Bandit. And as we were coming out of the sea, there was a guy going in for a swim with his girlfriend, and Bandit called across to him, waving his stump. He said, "Be careful, mate, there's a man eating shark out there." I was at an Ender Games party one year, and a lot of the amputees were doing the Okie Kokie dance, where you put your left leg in and you pull your right arm out, and there were prosthetic limbs flying everywhere. Over the years, I've competed for Great Britain 26 times. Sorry about the music. I've competed for Great Britain 26 times. I've won 29 international gold medals, of which 8 have been in the Paralympics, and I've set 22 world records. Perhaps the thing that blows me away about the places I've been, the people I've met, well, the thing that blows me away is the places I've been and the people I've met. I've met famous and interesting people: Margaret Thatcher, John Major, Tony Blair, John Key. And I've also met some famous and interesting people. I've met, I guess you know, there's so many highlights. Lead with my athletic career, the play. You know, like I say, I've been to Holland, America, Sydney, and I guess Sydney would have been the best Paralympic Games, but Seoul had special memories for me because I was the one who was chosen to carry the flag and lead the British team out onto the track. I stepped onto the track with my guide runner, and you know, there were 100,000 people in the stadium, and it was just an amazing experience. And I think the greatest race was in Sydney that I've ever had. And that was the 10,000 metres. It was the first event on the track, and I was leading that race until 5 laps to go, and 3 athletes came past me, and I thought, you know, as they pulled away from me, I thought, blimey, this is going to be the first time I haven't won a medal of any colour, and I really thought that, you know, that was it. I felt like I had diving boots on. Now, you know, I've told you how important a guide runner is. I suppose on the track, he's got a slightly easier job. You know, there's no steps, no lampposts, but you know, he has to keep you in touch. He has to tell you what's happening. The instructions he gives me are bent and straight at the relevant times. But you know, he's also there to tell me, you know, how the opposition are looking. So he was telling me things, useful information like they look crap as well. And you know, I kept putting one foot in front of the other, and you know, he was saying that they were 20 metres ahead, and I just thought about how I felt now, not about how I was going to feel in a lapse time or 2 lapse time. I just wanted to think about now and not think about how much more painful it was going to become. And you know, suddenly there were 4 laps to go, there were 3 laps to go, and I knew that with 2 laps to go that, you know, I was probably the fastest in the field, but of course I needed to be on terms. And then we got to 2 laps to go, and I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and suddenly I was speeding up. I moved into the bronze medal position at 600 to go, and the silver medal position at the bell with 1 lap to go. And then, you know, my guy Paul was just telling me to relax and, you know, to not be so keen. And coming off the last bend, he told me straight, let's go, and we went and managed to outsprint the Portuguese. And this is the fruits of my labour, the gold medal from the Sydney Paralympic Games. People ask me, what's it like to stand on a podium to even cross the finish line in the first place? And you know, it's like taking, you know, one of the greatest moments in your life and multiplying it by 10 or whatever. It really was such a feeling of, I don't know, you know, almost, well, I suppose relief was one of them, but just exhilaration. And to stand on the top step with that medal around my neck, visualising the flag going up the flagpole and hearing my national anthem was, you know, just really, really special. So that's Maggie Thatcher. And so I've also met Princess Anne a couple of times, Prince Charles, as well as Princess Diana 4 times. But I also have met the Queen 3 times, and you know, the first time I met her was when she presented me with the MBE, and that was a fantastic day. I arrived in London on the train, and I was all decked out in my top hat and tails, and feeling pretty good about myself. I wasn't allowed to take Henry to Buckingham Palace, as I guess it was feared he might choke on one of the Queen's corgis. And you know, we pulled into the quadrangle, and I thought, Struth, this is Buckingham Palace. You know, I've never been that far. I've been to see the changing of the guard when I was, you know, 6 years old, but now I was actually, you know, going to walk inside the palace. One of the pages met me, and over the next half hour or so, he explained to me the etiquette when meeting the Queen. And so, you know, he said, you know, once you're facing the Queen, you're about 10 steps away, and if you don't know how to bow, then you nod, and then you take the last few steps up and wait for her to pin the MBE on your lapel, and you know, he kept stressing, you know, make sure you don't speak first, let her speak. And with all that in mind, I just wanted to know how tall is the Queen, as I wanted to be, you know, looking at her face when she did speak. And he said, well, she's 5'2". So I thought, okay, well, I'm 6'2", so I know I have to look down. So my moment arrived. I did a nod, as I didn't know how to bow properly, took the last few steps up, felt her pin of the MBE on my lapel, and then she spoke. And with a start, I realised that she must be standing on a podium, because her voice was coming from my face level, and I'd been ogling the royal bosom. So many great things, you know, were happening to me about that time. I've been honoured by the Queen and got away with not having my head cut off. And some of the press were saying that I was the greatest Paralympian ever. And about that time, I started doing a massage course in the English Midlands. Now, whilst on that course, I met my first wife, Kath. We were married in a little English village in 1994. And about that time, Henry had earned enjoying a well-earned retirement, and his place had been taken by Quando. That's Kath. And that's Quando. And Quando's it was a beautiful collie cross retriever, and boy, he was fast. Going from Henley to Quando was like getting out an Austin 7 into a Ferrari. I didn't want to slow him down at all or come over at all negative during that first walk, so I just let him walk at his speed. And blimey, I was really struggling to get up with him. I think it's safe to say that Quando would have been the fittest guide dog in the world. We were living near the country then, and he was able to come on a lot of runs from parks and through the country. And he really showed us how running should be done. So, and when I was injured, obviously, you run a fine line of being injured and not being injured, and you have the other problems with needles and injuries. And 1995, I got a neural problem, and so Kath and I had a bike built. Normally tandems are built for a long person on the front and short on the back, but we had to get one made totally the opposite. And we did that's when I started touring around, and it was great fun. And then in 2003, I thought I'd been throwing a curveball when we had to have Quando put to sleep. Now, that's an incredibly hard thing to do for any person with a pet, but I guess if anything, maybe it's even worse for a blind person, as you feel like you've lost your eyes. However, nothing was to prepare me 17 days later for the death of Kath, my wife. She was only 38 years old, and she had a blockage to her brain, and one day, she'd gone. And that was by far the hardest thing I've ever had to face. But the house seemed so much emptier, and I didn't know how I was going to get through that time. But gradually I realised it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. It's possible to go on. Running really helped. It was really cathartic. It gave me a goal, and the goal was the Athens Paralympic Games. I knew that Kath would have wanted me to go there. And that was 10 months away, so that became my focus. I'd love to tell you that I won a medal on the track in those games, but to be honest, I was just pleased and proud to be able to run in Kath's honour. The day after I got back from Athens, I started training with my new guide dog, Joy. And it really was a joy to have her and to be able to walk around confidently and freely and be able to overtake the little old ladies who've been overtaking me for the past few months. The other German Shepherd in that picture, Joy's the German Shepherd, and the other German Shepherd was a beautiful girl called Gemma. And but unfortunately, after 6 months, she had to be retired on medical grounds. She had a condition called excitable urination. Basically, she wet herself every time she saw me. So I'd always wanted to come to New Zealand, and then a break in my training schedule and an invitation from a friend that I'd made in February 2006, and the next thing I know, I'm walking through the airport. The break in my training schedule was important because I normally wouldn't go anywhere without there being a guidewire at the end. So I found myself walking through Auckland Airport, and straight away I loved the feel of New Zealand. It felt warmer, the people seemed so much friendlier, and the coffee's so much better. And I had so many great things happen to me on that trip, but I think the thing that really clinched it for me to want to come to New Zealand was going for a walk along the viaduct. And walking in the Soul Bar, I bumped into my future wife, Sarah. After I picked her up and made sure she was okay, she asked me if I'd like to look at her. So not wanting to look a gift horse in the mouth, I did. And it's funny that as soon as she told me that her eyes were green, somehow her face seemed to leap into focus, and I could really visualise that strongly. And that started such an amazing 20 months or so. 3 months later, I immigrated here, and in the November that year, I ran across the Harbour Bridge in the Auckland Marathon.
It was a massive turnout, 10,500 competitors from all over lining up to use Auckland Marathon. Among them, a new talent from
Even before it started, Auckland Marathon broke its own record. With 1,000 more competitors than last year, it's New Zealand's biggest marathon yet. Among the masses, a runner with a difference, Rob Matthews has represented Britain for 23 years. He's also completely blind. This is only his 6th marathon, yet he's already ranked 4th in the world.
That's against the best number one runners in the world.
Rob moved to New Zealand 4 months ago, bringing a haul of medals from 7 Paralympics. If Rob can't do it on his own, he's joining the rest of the whole 42 kilometres.
It's like a pair dancing, really, perfect synchronisation and being together, I suppose.
Rob has 4 running guides. Cameron Watts is his best.
But if we come to a curve, I'll need to tell them curve up, curve down, and time it right.
But there's plenty in it for Cameron too.
But I've been a bit of a lazy runner in the past. I think it's like a whip crack. I call them the run Nazis sometimes.
This year, the crack is not just about getting to the finish line. There are much bigger goals at stake.
While this course has been used for the past 5 years, it's the first time it's been officially vetted, which means anyone here with a decent enough time qualifies for the Osaka World Champs next year and the Beijing Olympics in 2008.
Rob's 3 hours and 6-minute run isn't a personal best. But he's confident it's enough to get him to the Paralympic World Champs and Beijing. His biggest goal now is to get New Zealand citizenship in time, so he can swap the Union Jack for a silver fern. Check in with the plumber, One News.
That was it. Sarah actually made it into that film as well. I don't know if you saw it. Then 13 months after we met, Sarah and I got married, and we then bought a house, and 20 months to the day after we met, Thomas was born. And nothing was to prepare me actually for the feel of holding my boy for the first time, the feeling of protectiveness. And I'd never really had paternal instincts before, and it was just such an amazing thing to hold Thomas, and quite an interesting challenge feeding him. more on his face than I did in his mouth. We did know that there's a 50-50 chance whether Thomas might inherit the ARP, the retinitis pigmentosa gene, but we thought that if he did, then like I had my dad, he couldn't really have a better role model for showing what he And then Molly arrived 22 months ago, and she really is a bundle of joy. She's got hair like a mother. It's funny how both children, before they had any hair, people said they look like me. But and I think Molly's most likely the way she runs around anyway. So coming to a new country also gave me the opportunities to go fulfil some more ambitions. And one of them was to become a cyclist. I've done that. I've competed for New Zealand several times. I've won two bronze medals in world championships and world cup level. And the other thing I wanted to do was to compete in the triathlon, and I did that in 2009. That was actually the first time I competed for New Zealand. It was on the Gold Coast. Now, before I did that, I knew I had to do something about my swimming, as I really wasn't very good. And with some regular lessons, and I got better and better and trained harder and harder until I actually did the swim from Rangitoto to St Heliers, which is 4.6 kilometres. And then I reckoned I was ready for the triathlon. So once I got the tandem, we were set. And then I was running and found myself running with a silver fern on my chest, then winning a silver medal from New Zealand. So of course, being blind, it has its frustrations. The hardest thing is finding guide runners and not being able to go for a run whenever I want to go for a run. There's no way I'd have achieved the things I've achieved, done the things I've done, been the places I've been, had I not been blind. I think Helen Keller, a famous blind lady in the 19th century, said it well when she said the one thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. I really think that blindness has enriched my life, and I know that there's more in store. I'm still competing internationally. In fact, I only got back yesterday morning from California, when I was running in the California International Marathon. It was a race within a race. There's a blind race within that race, and I came third in that. And that was despite it absolutely hosed down the whole way, a bit like it did here about 1:30. And I actually had a calf problem from about 2 kilometres out, and I thought, I was wondering if I was going to make it to the first drink station, but somehow I managed to keep going, and like I say, we finished well in 3 hours. My personal best for the marathon was 2 hours 47, which I did in Sydney. And there's more challenges ahead. I thought about doing a bungee jump, but I'd heard you can go blind doing that. So. And another thing I want to do is do the Marathon des Sables through the Moroccan Sahara Desert, which is 251 kilometres in 6 days. And another one is the Polar Challenge, which is 650k from the North Pole into Antarctica, into the Arctic, sorry. Apparently there are 80% of the world's population of polar bears up there. So each team carries a gun. I don't know if I'll be the one who's allowed to carry the gun. So there's so much more that I want to do. Obviously, if I can find the sponsors, but that's really really what I want to. I'm really determined to do. So finally, my journey through life has taught me that anything is possible if I'm determined enough to go out and do it, and to do that second lap. I hope I prove that is the case. Thanks very much for listening to me this afternoon.
We do have time for a few questions. Obviously, we need to go through the right
and as well, a big German Shepherd, 40 kilo Shepherd, since May.
Would it be possible to run with that guide dog at all, or is that just too?
I did actually try it once, about a year into my serious running, and we walked up to somewhere we could, there were no, I knew there wouldn't be any traffic, and unfortunately there was a curb on one side and a cycle path on the other, and I just ran with Henley, and I nearly broke my ankle 3 times falling off the curb, and I figured that really it wasn't worth taking the chance. So I've got a treadmill that is a means to an end, but it's not a solution. I probably run about 16,000 miles on that, sort of kilometres on that. But it's quite mind-blowing boring. But I don't think it's fair on a guide dog to expect him to guide me at any speed.
On the basis that I would never be fast enough to be a guide for you, is there a place or a process for people who want to start running and need guides? So I need something about 80. I might be looking to get into it, but I'd be happy to help. So who would be the people for inclusion?
I suppose the Blind Foundation in Parnell would be one option. I know that in America there's a website set up for people who want to be guides. I think there is an international body that you could probably get in touch with. I wish I knew the website off the top of my head, but I don't. But I should be able to remember it actually. But the guy in Sacramento, a guy called Richard Hunter, he's the one who's coordinating it. Perhaps if you gave me your email address, I could forward you the details.
Sounds good.
Rob, my question is to you, with your racing, with your running and that, and planning a race, like a sportsman normally plans a game of rugby or plans a race and tactically set out to run at a certain pace for the X amount of laps or X amount of distance. You'd have to. Do you do that yourself in conjunction with the runner, or you just tell them what you're going to do?
It's usually a two-way thing, I always like to communicate well with my guys, and so we both understand, what we're doing, what we're trying to do, and have a game plan. I mean, that's how I always race internationally, and it'll be either, we'll go out in front and set the pace, or we'll wait until the last 300 metres or whatever it might be. Usually during a race, my guide does all the talking, I haven't got any breath to talk. And I always make sure I run with a guide who's better than me, because obviously I'm running on the left, which you run anti-clockwise around the track, so I'm running the shorter distance. So, I'm not stupid. And he's got I've got to know that if he has a bad day, he can keep up with it.
Yeah.
We've got one more question, if that's okay. Yeah. Rob, could you just describe how you cope with the swim training in the pool, so judging the end?
Yeah, well, Parnell Baths, the outdoor baths, which is 60 metres long, is quite good. That I actually count my strokes. I know that I seem to take about between 28 and 33 strokes, depending on how tired I am. So, and I just find that I don't, when I hit the end, I don't tend to hurt my hand for some reason, which is quite lucky. But I do swim with the guide as well. We use bicycle tube, which we have our legs tied with. But there's also something I just discovered in the States that you can have around your waist and tie it to the lanes, so you just basically swim in place. Apparently a lot of sighted people do it. You put a mirror on the bottom of the pool so you can watch your technique as well. And that'd be a perfect thing for me to use. So So that's probably where I'm looking at. That way I can use a much smaller pool, say like parents-in-law's pool in their garden. I can just go out there and just swim on the spot for half an hour.
I was very interested in your talk. I have a cousin who's a para-triathlete, so very personal connection there. But I'm really intrigued as to how did you put your slides together? I mean, do you kind of have a picture in your mind of what you want on the screen and someone helps you?
Yeah, pretty well. I mean, we've obviously got loads and loads of photos from the things I've done over the years, and yeah, well, my wife and I kind of discussed the photos that are there, and so she's mainly responsible for putting them together, and then the guy who put my website together, did the soundtrack.
Fantastic. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Emma.